Alright, welcome to another episode of Nomadic Overland. In this video, I'm going to go through rooftop tents. I've had mine now for a couple of years, so I'm going to go over mine, how it's holding up, some tips and tricks for rooftop camping, and just some things that you need to know. Overall, I love it, and it's completely changed the way I go out and camp and enjoy my night's sleep. But I'll take you through my experiences, and hopefully it helps answer some questions for you if you're looking into buying a rooftop tent, and maybe even what brand to buy. Thanks, and hope you enjoy the video. All right, let's go over some basics. My rooftop tent of choice was Tuff Stuff, and the reason for that, I'm cheap and poor at the time, and it was the least expensive option. But overall, I've had a great experience with them and their customer service. I had a zipper break on a cover, and they sent that, and overnight I got it within a couple days. Their service has been awesome. But I'm going to take you over some things that I learned about it, and just what to expect when sleeping in a rooftop tent. So first things first, when you're selecting a spot, you want to make sure to get it nice and level. As you can see, I'm actually leaned back just a hair, but it should be good enough for a good night's sleep if I was to camp here. One thing, if you do need to raise up a side or whatever, feel free to put some rocks under whatever tires that you need to go up a little bit. It's not going to make a huge change, but the bigger the rock, the bigger the lift, of course. So make sure you're level on both axes. So looking at it from the side, and then come and check out behind your truck as well and see if you're level from this angle. I'm actually pretty good from the behind view. So if anything, I would have to put a couple rocks under both my rear tires and basically level out the back a little bit. One other note, so this is actually good for when you're deciding what lift to go with or how your truck or SUV or whatever it is gonna be leveled. So right now with the leaf springs I have in the back, you can see my truck is actually just kind of naturally leaning back a little bit, meaning the front is higher than the rear. It used to be level with the way I had it set up before, but this is just the way it is right now. There's softer springs. I always have load in the back. So I may go with a different leaf spring eventually, but I have to deal with the fact that my truck is tilted back a little. So, if anything, like I mentioned, just put some rocks under it, find a surface that matches, which way your truck is leaning or your rig is leaning, and figure it out that way. I haven't had it, be a problem at all. But if you're really leaning to one side or another, it's definitely going to make for a less comfortable night's sleep, especially if you're sharing that tent with someone. All right, so first note about the Tuff Stuff rooftop tent. One thing is I'm really disappointed with the Velcro straps that they use. They're thin and they wore out pretty quick. So I've, basically started tying them off, and that works a lot better. But when I would just Velcro them, they would come apart on the freeway after a year or so of use. And, it's just not wide enough, not durable enough to stand together. I wish they would have come up with another technique to do this, even if it was just, a nylon strap like this, and then a pair of D-rings here to loop it through and then cinch it tight, kind of like a motorcycle helmet or something. That would have been sufficient, and I may actually mod that myself. So one thing with all my notes on this, one caveat is they do have a new generation of tent now. I'm not sure if they've solved that, but I'll go over the changes that I know have happened in this video as well. The cover on this tent has been quite durable. It sits outside in the sun almost all the time. It gets dirty, gets rained on, has proven to be waterproof, keeps the dust out really well, and has withstood everything I throw at it. Even overstuffing this tent a little bit and then trying to pack it up that way. So other than the straps, I definitely give the cover a 10 out of 10 so far. They do have gusseted corners here as well, and the cover can be quite tight. So one thing to note is it actually does help if it's a nice sunny day and it gets a little softened up and everything, and it helps to get that on a little bit easier. First step to actually unfolding this tent is to undo both of these. So we basically get these straps out of here. I just toss them over the other side of the truck like that. And then once we get the straps done, we can start unzipping our cover. I only unzip two sides. So I basically go around, unzip the back side, and then come over here and unzip this side, and then I flop it onto my roof without fully removing that cover. All right, so the cover is unzipped, flopped over to the roof like I mentioned. I did time how long that took me to take the straps off, unzip it, and flop it over the roof, and it was 1 minute or less doing this by myself. Next step, there's 2 of these straps on each side. Similar to the cover, I'm really worried about these this Velcro failing eventually, so I hope they opt for a nice, maybe double or triple the thickness of this Velcro in the future. But so far, hasn't failed. But there's one on this side, one on the other side over there in the same location. Once we take those off, we can flop down the tent. All right, so the easiest way to do this is to pull the ladder out till it locks in place one click, like that. And then you can grab it, pull it, and flop it out, and the tent opens up. As you can see, my truck's a little bit too high for this ladder on its first click. So basically we can pull the pin, get it down to the next notch on here, and get it to lock in place. So the ladder can actually serve as a supporting part, but it's not needed. So, this hangs off and it'll settle eventually being locked in, but we don't even need the ladder here necessarily. Generally then I unfold this part, get under here, Alright, so it's basically set up like that. So as you may have noticed, one thing about this style of tent is it overhangs, which is really nice in the rain, but nothing is basically keeping this tight unless we do something with these tie downs. So it does come with stakes. That's a little bit of a pain. This works as long as there's no wind, but as soon as you start introducing any rain or wind, you'll definitely want to either tie this to something with a decent amount of weight, not the ladder of course, it does not work because it just pulls the ladder up with it, or stake them down to the ground. One other note about this tent is you can see that rain fly in the back there, just barely catching wind. There's hardly a breeze now, but if there's any substantial wind over the course of the night, that thing will start flapping. So what I have tended to do is I'll basically take one of these eyelets here, attach a bungee cord to it, and I'll pull that bungee cord down and hook it to somewhere on my truck to keep it tight. Depending on how windy, you may actually have to do both eyelets on here to keep that nice and tight and keep from flapping around. I really wish that these actually did that job, but they just don't. So, one note for you guys. The next step in the setup process, if you want to get some decent airflow in this tent, is to basically take these sprung or spring steel rods, and we will use them to hold out the side flap here. So basically what you do is you locate the eyelet down here, you put it in the hole there, bend this up, and put that hook in that eyelet, and you do that for each side. I only have, one hand to do this with while filming, so give me a sec and I will do that for you right now. All right, so that's all it takes. One thing I do want to point out, this is more for, the manufacturer of the tent here, but I have had to put a little extra bend in this rod because this angle is not severe enough to hold this. So sometimes if this gets a little bump, it does that and pushes down. So if you put a little extra bend in the rod, it generally keeps it up here. You can also maybe take it to a vise or something like that and put a little extra bend in here, which is probably what will do when I get home again, now that I have remembered. But yeah, this tent actually has tons of airflow. There's the window on the other side that I never open up. The reason being, I can't get to the eyelets down here. That was a conscious decision that I made when mounting the tent. When I did, I knew I wouldn't be able to open this. You can always prop it open or unzip it from the inside and still get a little airflow. Also, if you're worried about airflow, this door over here does fully open up, and sometimes I will basically just put that up like that and then open up that door and just get a little extra air in there, and that works fine even in the rain. One note about the ladder on this tent, I know they've upgraded it to a tubular style ladder, which I do like better. I've never had any problems with this one. It's never scared me that it's going to break or anything. But, you know, just one thing to note, the tube style one is nice. One thing I did not like about this ladder is they basically had a set of holes up here pre-drilled, and then you do have to drill. There's actually another set of holes right here. So you do have to drill your own holes depending on the height that you need for the ladder. I mean, that's nice from a strength perspective. They didn't do it. So basically it's just a little DIY. So figure out the height that your tent is off the ground for your particular vehicle, and then you can put those holes in there as needed. All right, so let's go up into the tent now. One thing to note is there are two flaps. There's this sturdy outer waterproof flap, and then inside there is a mesh one as well. So typically when I'm sleeping, I will actually roll this one up. There are hangers up there for both sets of flaps. You can actually roll both of them up or do them individually. So there's two sets. So I'll typically roll this one up, just leave the bug one in place, and get lots of nice airflow up here in this tent. All right, as we get into the tent itself, you can see I actually keep a heavy duty sleeping bag in here, a blanket, one regular pillow, an air pillow, a beanie, and a set of silk sheets in here at all times. That way I can just get to wherever I'm going to camp for the night, open it up, you know, whether it's raining or not, just open this thing up as quick as possible and get a good night's sleep. On the other side there, you can actually see the tie downs I just referred to for both sets. So there's, you know, the inner and the outer for the bug screen and the other screen. We do have the window here that is over the cab. There's plenty of storage in the sides. There's two big storage pockets on each side of this thing. And then the window back there that I opened up and kind of have it, once again, there's that waterproof layer and a bug layer for all windows. I do want to cover the material used in this. In my experience, it's very durable. I've had no issues yet. It is waterproof and there's the extra rainfly on it. All the seams are sealed. Hopefully you can see that here as well, to make sure that they're waterproof, and I haven't had any issues with the seams on this tent. The construction has this nylon cording in place as well, so all the tension isn't just on the outer material, but this is held in place as well. Aluminum for all the rods, and then down here we have some stainless steel actually, and then aluminum and plastic. Hopefully this plastic doesn't give us any problems. No indications yet. There's even these flaps to cover the little seam here as well, just to make sure no wind or air is getting in, which is a nice little detail. One other note about the inside are there are two vents, one on each side, that have a little rain fly over them and then mesh inside as well. So there's one over there and one over here. So if you're in this tent and you've battened down all the hatches, you know, you have everything sealed up, watertight, it does still allow for some fresh air to get in, which is a nice feature. You're not going to suffocate yourself in here by accident or anything like that, or have any weird pressure issues. So all in all, everything seems pretty well thought out on this, except for the exterior and how the rainfly and the cover mount. All right, so let's talk about size inside. I'm 6'4", my head is where it normally would be at the top, and here's the space for my feet. You can see there's a few extra inches actually down there, and I've never had any problems with here. You know, my wife and I can sleep in this comfortably. Of course, one person is fine, but we've never had any problems with two. and even getting a dog up here in the tent with size. So very comfortable, breathes well, and with this super thick material, it stays nice and toasty at night, even with sub-freezing temperatures in my experience so far. One other note is if you are going to be using a rooftop tent, make sure to keep it away from campfires. I haven't had any problem with the actual tent material melting, but you can probably see these little speckled dots here, and that's because the rainfly has actually gotten a few holes in it from particularly windy nights and ashes from either my campfire or other people's campfires landing on it. So that was pretty aggravating. I haven't noticed any problems with water at night, but yeah, keep in mind because you could actually melt your rainfly or the tent itself. All right, that's all it took to pack it up. We're ready to rock and roll, get out of here, move on to the next site. Hopefully that helped you also see how to tear it down. Thanks. All right, thanks for watching the video. Hopefully this helps answer some questions that you may have had about rooftop tents. Like I said, I went with the budget option at the time, which was Tuff Stuff. I have not regretted it since. I've used it for 2 years. It's gotten a lot of use. It's held up well. The only minor issue were those Velcro straps on the outside, which I've been able to tie off and it's perfectly fine. So for a pretty budget rooftop tent, it's worked out very, very well. No issues with durability or strength so far with 2 people sleeping in it, 2 adults sleeping in it, I should say. And yeah, so far so good. I hope this inspires you to either get one, make a decision on getting one, or whatever it is, and helps you out in the future. Thanks for watching the channel, everyone. Please subscribe to the channel. It really helps us out. Like the video, comment on what we can do better, and get out and get some off-roading in. Enjoy the beautiful days that you may have ahead of you.